What if I told you that the next time you see a fallen branch in your backyard, you're not looking at trash, but at potential? Because hidden inside those rough pieces of wood are ideas so simple, yet so breathtaking, they could completely change the way you see your tiny garden or patio. Welcome to Simply DIY, where creativity meets calm, and where we turn the forgotten into something unforgettable. In today's video, we'll explore unbelievable DIY upcycling ideas using tree branches to transform tiny gardens, patios, and backyards. These visuals are purely inspirational, a spark to ignite your own imagination. Feel free to recreate, redesign, or reinvent them with what you already have. That's the beauty of DIY. It's yours to shape. And before we begin, maybe to you, I'm just another face on a screen. But behind this content, there's a real story and a real family. This isn't just a video. It's a piece of my heart. Every like, every comment, every subscribe, it truly matters. When you hit that button, you're not just helping a creator grow. You're helping a dream stay alive. You're giving a small family hope, one click at a time. Thank you for being here. Thank you for seeing me. Have you ever looked at an old fallen branch and thought it was just another piece of trash in the garden? What if, hidden beneath its rough bark, there was something warm, beautiful, and alive waiting to be shaped by your hands? Today, let's slow down a little. Imagine sunlight slipping through the trees as you hold a simple branch, dry, uneven, yet full of character. With a small saw and a little patience, you begin cutting through the grain, and suddenly the scent of raw wood fills the air. That scent, earthy and calming, reminds you that nature never really wastes anything. As you sand the surface, the pattern of time begins to appear, every ring, every curve telling its own quiet story. You don't need fancy tools, just your hands, your heart, and a bit of care. Before long, that old branch becomes a charming cutting board, rustic yet elegant, perfect for slicing fresh lemons or chopping herbs you've just picked from your backyard. Place it outside on your small patio table, maybe beside a pot of mint or basil. Watch how the sunlight plays along its edges, how it turns something ordinary into something poetic. That's the beauty of DIY. It's not only about making things, but about finding meaning in simplicity. So the next time you see a fallen branch, don't walk past it. Pick it up, feel its weight, and remember, every piece of wood can be reborn, if only we're patient enough to see the beauty inside. There's something almost magical about watching flowers rest inside a piece of wood that once lived among them. A wooden vase made from a tree branch isn't just decoration. It's a reminder that nature never stops giving, even after it's fallen silent. Imagine walking through your backyard after the rain, the ground still soft beneath your feet. You find a thick branch, smooth in some parts, rugged in others, and you bring it home. With a small knife or a drill, you carve out the center, not perfectly, just enough to hold a few wildflowers you've gathered from your garden. The scent of wood mixes with the freshness of petals, and suddenly, your hands are creating something that feels alive again. Place the finished vase on a small patio table or near a window where sunlight can slip through. Watch how the flowers glow against the soft, warm tone of the wood. Every curve, every grain becomes a story of time. Rain, wind, and sunlight all leaving their mark. You can use any branch, really. Pine, oak, or even a fallen fruit tree limb. Each brings its own texture and shade. A bit of sanding, maybe a thin coat of natural oil, and your vase will last for years. It's sustainable, it's beautiful, and it teaches us to slow down, to create instead of consume. In a world that moves too fast, this small act of making brings peace. A branch reborn, a flower resting, and a quiet space that reminds us that beauty doesn't come from perfection, but from patience and love. quiet kind of beauty in sipping from something that once grew beneath the open sky. A wooden cup isn't just an object, it's a piece of nature you hold in your hands. Every line in the grain tells a story, of rain, of sun, of years spent reaching for the light. Picture yourself on a calm morning, sitting on a small patio. The air is cool, the birds have just begun to sing, and in your hands rests a cup you made yourself from a fallen branch. It's not perfect, the rim is slightly uneven, the handle still rough, yet somehow, that's what makes it special. You can feel the life that once flowed through it, the warmth of the wood blending with the steam of your tea. Making one isn't as hard as it seems. All you need is a small branch, a carving knife, a bit of patience and care. Hollow the center gently, sand it smooth, and finish it with natural oil or beeswax to seal and protect the surface. The scent of the oil mixes with the wood, and soon it feels like you've created something alive again. Not a product, but a companion for your quiet mornings. Use it outdoors, beside your garden, or while reading under the shade of a tree. Every time you lift it, you'll be reminded that creation is not about speed or perfection, but about presence, about slowing down enough to notice the soft sound of wind through leaves and the warmth of something made by your own hands. So maybe next time, instead of buying another mug, you'll listen to the whisper of an old branch and turn it into something that holds not just a drink, but a story. There's a certain charm in the imperfect. A fence made from twigs, uneven and full of character, can bring more life to a garden than any store-bought border ever could. It's nature's way of reminding us that beauty doesn't always need polish. Sometimes it just needs purpose. Imagine standing in your backyard, gathering fallen branches after a windy morning. Some are straight, some curve slightly, others still wear bits of moss. You clean them gently, trim the ends, and begin tying them together with thin wire or jute rope. Piece by piece, your hands shape something meaningful, a small fence that will soon embrace your flowers or herbs. As you press each twig into the soft soil, it becomes part of the landscape, blending effortlessly with the earth and greenery. The little gaps between the sticks let sunlight and rain pass through, creating a space that feels alive and breathing. And when you step back, you realize that your tiny fence doesn't just mark a boundary. It tells a story of patience, simplicity, and care. What makes this project beautiful is that anyone can do it. No fancy tools, no expensive materials, just twigs, time, and a gentle hand. You can line them along a garden path, surround your vegetable patch, or frame a cluster of potted plants on your patio. Each version will carry its own quiet poetry. So the next time you find yourself with a handful of twigs, don't throw them away. Turn them into something that frames your little corner of life, a border that speaks softly of nature, craftsmanship, and the simple joy of creating with what the earth has already given. There's something deeply satisfying about walking along a garden path lined with pieces of wood that once stood tall in the forest. Each slice holds the memory of wind and rain, of seasons changing quietly. When you turn those memories into garden borders, you give nature a new life, one that grows beside your flowers and follows the shape of your hands. Start by choosing branches or small logs that have fallen naturally. Cut them into even slices, thick enough to stand firm in the soil. You don't need perfect circles. The charm lies in their differences. When you line them up along a garden path or flower bed, each piece becomes a note in a melody of wood, soil, and sunlight. If you want them to last longer, brush a little natural wood oil over the surface. It will bring out the grain, deepen the color, and protect the wood from the rain. You'll notice how the sunlight glows warmly against the smooth rings, each one marking a story of time. This simple DIY idea doesn't just make your garden look beautiful, it creates rhythm, a natural flow that leads the eyes from one plant to another, guiding your steps softly through the landscape you've built. It's inexpensive, easy to do, and deeply grounding. So, take a walk outside after the rain, find a fallen branch, and imagine how it could line your garden with warmth and grace. Because sometimes, the most beautiful borders aren't made from concrete or metal. They're made from patience, love, and the quiet poetry of wood reborn. In the quiet corners of a garden, even the smallest creations can hold a story. A tiny log, once forgotten on the ground, can become a cradle for life, a home for succulents that thrive in silence and light. There's something deeply calming about this kind of transformation. It doesn't demand perfection, it only asks for care. Imagine picking up a small branch, still rough with bark, it scent faintly earthy after the morning rain. With a simple drill or carving tool, you hollow out its center, brushing away the dust that falls like soft saw clouds. Then, with a touch of soil and a tender hand, you nestle a small succulent inside. The moment feels delicate, almost sacred. You don't need many tools. A piece of sandpaper to smooth the edges, some pebbles for drainage, maybe a dash of natural oil if you want the wood to glow softly under the sun. What makes it beautiful is not its size, but how it fits anywhere, on a tiny patio, a window ledge, or a garden bench kissed by sunlight. Succulents love this kind of space. Their roots don't need much room, just a home that breathes. Over time, the wood and the plant seem to merge, nature embracing itself again, green against brown, life growing from what once stood still. When you make one of these, you don't just craft decoration. You create balance between what has ended and what begins again. It's a small gesture, but it teaches a great truth. Beauty doesn't always bloom in abundance. Sometimes, it hides in the smallest log, waiting for you to bring it back to life. There's a kind of silence that only candlelight understands, a soft glow that turns ordinary spaces into places of warmth and memory. A simple piece of wood, once rough and forgotten, can hold that light with grace. When you carve a candle holder from a fallen branch, you're not just crafting an object, you're shaping a moment. Begin with a branch that feels solid beneath your hand, neither too thin nor too heavy. Cut it clean, and with a steady motion, hollow a small space at the top, just enough to cradle a tea light or a tall candle. You'll notice the wood scent rising as you carve, earthy and real, carrying the memory of the forest. Smooth the edges with sandpaper, and if you like, brush it lightly with oil to deepen its color. When you place the candle inside and strike the flame, everything changes. Shadows dance gently across the bark, the grain catches the glow, and the air fills with quiet beauty. It's perfect for a patio dinner, an evening by the garden, or even a simple night of reflection. What makes these wooden candle holders special isn't how perfect they look, but how personal they feel. Every mark of the knife, every uneven surface, tells of the hands that made it. It's sustainable, humble, and full of soul. You can group them together to line a garden path, or place a single one on a small table. One flicker of light to remind you that nature and warmth belong together. In the end, you'll realize that you didn't just create a candle holder. You built a little piece of peace. Sometimes the simplest objects can carry the deepest sense of comfort. A branch, once shaped by the wind, can become a small guardian of order, holding your hat, your keys, or even a pot of blooming flowers by the wall. Making your own wooden hooks and hangers is a gentle reminder that beauty often hides in the everyday things we overlook. Begin by choosing branches with natural curves, the ones that seem to stretch their arms out, as if ready to hold something. Clean them gently, keeping the bark if you love that rustic look. You can cut one end flat so it fits neatly against a wall or fence. A small screw or nail is all you need to fix it in place. If you want to bring out its character, brush it lightly with oil or a touch of varnish. Soon, these simple hooks will line your garden shed, patio, or kitchen wall. Each one different, each one quietly useful. You might hang your tools on them after a long day in the garden, or maybe your straw hat, the one that's seen 100 sunny mornings. And when the sunlight hits the wood in the afternoon, you'll notice how the grains still catch the light, how the branch still looks alive in its new purpose. That's the heart of upcycling, giving things not just a second life, but a second meaning. This project doesn't take much time, and yet it brings an honest warmth to your space. Every time you hang something on a branch you shaped yourself, it's a quiet reminder. Creativity doesn't always come from making something new, but from seeing the old with gentler eyes. If you've ever paused long enough in your garden, you've probably heard them, the gentle songs of small birds carried through the air like soft morning prayers. They remind us that even the smallest creatures seek warmth, food, and a quiet place to rest. And maybe, with a little patience and creativity, we can build that for them. A fallen branch can become a simple act of kindness. Cut a hollow through its center or carve a shallow groove to hold seeds. You don't need perfection. The rough edges, the marks of your tools, even the shape of your hands become part of its charm. Add a bit of rope or twine, and hang it where sunlight filters through the leaves. Soon, nature will find its way back to you. You'll be surprised how quickly life gathers around what you've made. The chirps in the morning grow louder, wings flutter between branches, and the world feels a little more alive. It's not just a feeder, it's a bridge between your home and the creatures that share your space. For longer-lasting feeders, use untreated wood and avoid glossy finishes. A coat of natural oil helps the surface resist rain while keeping its texture raw and organic. And if you place a few flowers or herbs nearby, you'll invite butterflies and bees to join the harmony too. There's something healing about watching them eat from what your hands have shaped. It reminds you that beauty isn't only about creating, it's also about giving back. A log, a few seeds, and a bit of care. Sometimes, that's all it takes to make your garden sing. There's a quiet joy in serving something with your own creation, a tray carved not from a factory mold, but from the heart of a fallen tree. A rustic wooden serving tray feels alive beneath your fingertips. Its surface still whispers stories of rain and sunlight, its rings holding time like poetry carved into wood. Imagine a weekend morning, soft light spilling across your patio. You carry a simple tray made from a thick log slice, a cup of tea, a plate of fruit, maybe a wildflower in a glass jar. Nothing fancy, just honest beauty. And yet, somehow, the moment feels richer. You can almost taste the peace in it. Making one is simpler than you might think. Find a sturdy log with an even surface. Slice it clean and sand it slowly, following the direction of the grain. Let the wood guide your hands. You can leave the bark on for a more natural look, or remove it for something refined. If you want to protect the surface, coat it lightly with food-safe oil or beeswax. The wood will glow, deep and warm, as if it's breathing again. It's the perfect piece for garden tea time or lazy afternoons outdoors. You can use it as a serving tray, a decorative base for candles, or even a display for your favorite plants. Each one will turn out different, and that's the beauty of it. Nature never repeats herself. When you place it down and see how sunlight dances across the wood, you'll realize you didn't just make a tray. You crafted a pause, a small space of calm between the noise of the day. And sometimes, that's all a home really needs. There's a kind of music that doesn't need instruments. The wind plays it for you. All it needs is something gentle to touch, a few pieces of wood, a whisper of air, and the patience of your hands. A wind chime made from tree branches is more than decoration. It's a small conversation between nature and your home. Imagine gathering a few fallen twigs, each with its own shape and sound. Some are slender and smooth, others still wear bits of bark. You clean them carefully, tie them together with thin string, and maybe add beads, shells, or bits of metal that catch the light. It's simple, quiet work, the kind that slows your breathing and steadies your thoughts. When you hang it outside, perhaps under the edge of your roof or from a low tree branch, the breeze takes over the story. It doesn't shout. It hums, it sighs. It reminds you that the air is alive. Every time the branches sway, they echo something soft, like the rustle of memory or the peace of a moment you didn't realize you needed. You can experiment with materials, a touch of glass for sparkle, a bit of driftwood for tone. Each choice gives your chime a different voice, a rhythm that belongs only to your space. And on those evenings when the day begins to fade and the light grows honey warm, sit nearby for a while. Let the sound fill the silence. It will remind you that beauty doesn't always demand attention. Sometimes it just drifts by, gently, like wind through the trees. Every garden has a soul, and sometimes, all it needs is a few words to make it speak. A wooden sign, hand-carved or painted with care, turns a simple patch of soil into a place with personality. It could say, "Welcome," or "Tiny Paradise," or maybe the names of the herbs you've planted with love. Whatever words you choose, they carry warmth. Creating one begins with a piece of wood that already knows the weather. Reclaimed branches, old planks, or slices of logs make the best storytellers. You can smooth the surface or leave it rough, depending on the mood you want, rustic charm or a neat garden touch. Then, with a small brush or a wood-burning pen, you give the wood a voice. It doesn't have to be perfect. In fact, the slight unevenness of your handwriting gives it character, proof that this garden was built by human hands, not machines. A coat of clear sealant will keep the letters safe from rain, but don't hide the natural grain. That's where the beauty lives. You can stake your sign into the soil beside a pot of mint, hang it on the fence, or lean it gently by your front gate. Over time, the wood will age and soften, just like the garden around it. Every time you walk past it, you'll feel something small but grounding, a whisper that says this space is yours, shaped by patience, kindness, and a little imagination. Because in the end, a garden sign isn't only for visitors. It's also for you, a reminder that nature welcomes you home every day. There's something quietly poetic about a shelf made from branches. It doesn't just hold things, it holds stories. Each curve, each knot in the wood, tells of wind, rain, and time. And when you turn those branches into shelves or stands, you give them a new purpose, to carry life once more. Picture a small corner of your patio or garden wall. You take a few branches, thick, sturdy, still breathing with character, and arrange them to support a flat plank. It doesn't have to be perfect. Let the natural shape of the wood guide you. Maybe one branch bends slightly. Maybe another twists like a dancer frozen mid-motion. Those imperfections are what make it beautiful. As you screw or tie them together, you start to see more than just structure. It becomes a tiny stage for plants, for candles, or for the little things that make your home feel alive. When sunlight touches the wood, the whole piece glows with a kind of warmth that can't be bought, only made. You can build them tall or small, hang them against a wall, or let them stand proudly on their own. Use reclaimed wood whenever possible. The more weathered it looks, the more soul it carries. Add a coat of natural wax or leave it raw for that soft, earthy scent. In a world filled with straight lines and metal edges, these branch shelves remind us to keep something wild inside our homes, something that still remembers the forest. Every time you place a new plant or cup upon it, it's like setting a memory down on nature's palm. So take your time. Build it slowly. Let the wood tell you where it wants to go. Because when it's finished, it won't just be a shelf, it will be a quiet piece of nature, holding a part of your story too. When night falls softly over the garden, light has a way of finding its voice again. A single candle, resting inside a lantern made from a tree branch, doesn't just brighten the dark, it changes the air. It turns silence into warmth and shadows into something almost alive. Imagine a piece of wood you've hollowed by hand. Maybe it still carries a trace of bark, maybe it's smooth from careful sanding. You slip a glass cup inside, place a candle within, and strike a match. The flame flickers against the grain of the wood, revealing the years that once lived inside it. It feels like the forest breathing with you. You can make these lanterns in so many ways. Carve holes to let the light escape in patterns, or cut small windows for a softer glow. A few drops of natural oil can bring out the richness of the wood, making it shine when the candle burns. And if you hang them from a branch or line them along a path, the whole garden transforms, not just with light, but with calm. They work beautifully for dinners on the patio or quiet evenings when you just need to slow down. What makes them special isn't only how they look, but how they feel. They remind you that beauty can come from simplicity, from something that once fell from a tree, now carrying fire like a heart that refuses to stop glowing. So tonight, light one, and watch the way the flame dances inside its wooden home. It doesn't rush. It doesn't shout. It simply exists, steady, gentle, and full of grace. There's something beautifully grounding about a table made from a single piece of wood. It doesn't try to be perfect, it just exists, strong and honest, carrying the same quiet dignity it once had when it stood as part of a tree. Turning a fallen log into a tiny wooden table isn't just a craft project, it's a way of bringing a piece of the forest home. You start with a log that feels right in your hands. Not too heavy, not too thin, but solid enough to stand on its own. The scent of fresh wood fills the air as you sand the surface smooth, uncovering the soft, golden grain beneath the bark. The rings appear one by one, marking years of rain and sunlight, each one a story older than you. When the top feels clean and even, a little oil or wax gives it warmth, bringing the color to life. Add 3 short branch legs if you like, or leave it as a single block. Both ways feel natural. Place it beside a chair on your patio, or use it as a small table in your garden corner. The contrast between its rustic charm and the softness of your surroundings creates something peaceful, a meeting point between wild and human. Tiny log tables are endlessly versatile. They can hold a candle, a cup of tea, or a pot of flowers. They don't take much space, but they make every corner feel alive. And because no two logs are ever the same, each table becomes its own original piece of art, imperfect, timeless, and quietly full of soul. Sometimes, the most beautiful furniture doesn't come from a store. It's made from the earth, by your own hands, carrying the memory of the tree it once was and the warmth of the home it now belongs to.